Hi guys, it's Andy from Nismo Tech UK. Today we're giving an unboxing and overview for Arctic, and this is the Freezer Extreme Rev 2. Okay, so starting with the packaging, you can see that it's all clear, and it's a plastic shell that's keeping everything, the actual cooler inside, as well as all the bits and pieces that come with this. So let's look at the actual front of the actual box. We've got the Arctic branding along the top here, and I see the Freezer Extreme Rev 2. The compatible sockets down at the bottom, which are 775, 1155, 1156 and 1366 Intel, and AMD 754, 939, AM2, AM2 Plus, AM3, AM3 Plus, FM1 and FM2. And it also features a 6-year limited warranty, which is really good to see. Now onto this side, we've just also got the Arctic branding, a little bit of information about Arctic itself, and again that's repeated on this side. Moving on to the back of the box itself, we can see some specifications about the actual CPU cooler. Up here it mentions that it's got pre-applied MX2 thermal paste, very easy installation, a virtually silent fan and effective heat dissipation. Now Arctic have included some statistics from some testing that they've done themselves. Using an Intel Core i7-3770K, which has been overclocked, the Extreme Rev 2, which was running at 1500 RPM, produced temperatures of around 40.3 degrees centigrade, compared to a boxed cooler at 3000 RPM, which was running at 64.7. Onto the noise level, using exactly the same setup, we're looking at 0.5 son, which I believe to be around about 20 dBA, compared to obviously the same box cooler, which was 2 son, which is around about 80 dBA. The maximum cooling capacity of the unit is 160 watts. The heatsink material, which we'll come on to in a moment, I'm just looking for the dimensions. Here we go. The dimensions are 130 millimeters in length, 100 millimeters in width, and 131 millimeters in height. So it's not particularly tall, but the overall shape is absolutely massive. So without further ado, let's get into the actual packaging itself. Okay, so it looks like it just literally pulls apart like that. First thing that we got inside here is an installation guide for Intel and AMD sockets. So obviously find the correct socket for yourself, and then you're able to go along and install the actual cooler. I'm just going to put this down on its front and lift this absolutely massive device out. Just put that down to one side. Move the packaging away because we don't actually need that right now. Also we've got the Intel plate, so we'll just pop that down there. Tucked away inside here we've got the AMD brackets, and also the push pins for Intel installation. So I'm just going to pop this down on the mounting bracket so that we can have a good look around the actual CPU cooler. Okay, so as you can see, just by turning this around, the actual fan itself isn't really particularly visible, and that's because it's mounted in between two heat sinks. Now the fan itself is a 120mm fan. It's got a fluid dynamic bearing, and it will run from 8000 all the way up to 1500 RPM, and it is connected by a 4-pin PWM cable, which is right there. It's a shame that that isn't braided actually, but there we go. So we'll just pop that back down on there. Now looking at the actual fins on the actual heatsink itself, or on both heatsinks, there are a total of 102 fins on the actual heatsink, and they are 0.3 millimeters in thickness, so they're very thin indeed. One thing that I really like about the actual look of this is obviously you've got the Arctic branding on the side. You know, fair enough, it's just sort of a bit of decor, but it does really help with the actual look of the actual cooler. Obviously you can see it's quite sort of square or rectangular, and obviously you've got the Freezer Extreme branding right at the top of the actual cooler itself, on top of the actual fan. You can just about see the actual fan through the actual heat sinks, through the actual heat fins, sorry, and also you can see the actual fan on the inside there. So we will be connecting this up to a power source in a moment. Onto the actual heat pipes themselves, so as you can see there's a total of 4 heat pipes, and they are 6mm in thickness. Obviously they're double-sided, so you've got four running into there and then running in obviously onto the other side and coming out up the top here. Now the weight of the actual cooler itself is 608 grams, so it's quite hefty, and obviously as you can see by the actual size, it is quite a beast of an actual cooler. So what we're going to do now is just quickly connect this up to a power supply so that you can see how well the fan performs. Okay, so I've now got the Freezer Extreme connected up to a power source, so let's switch this on. Obviously there ain't going to be a great deal that you can actually see. Obviously if I bring this a bit closer, you might be able to see the actual fan moving around a little bit on the inside. It's blowing directly towards us at the moment, so one thing that I have noticed is probably a little bit difficult to figure out what way the actual fan is blowing, so it's probably a good idea to actually connect this up to a power source before you install. But as a little tip, the Freezer Extreme, if you sort of point that towards the back of the case, that's the direction of the airflow. So you can't really sort of see too much. Just bring that in. You can actually just about see the actual fan going around. There is quite a bit of noise coming from it, to be fair, but at the end of the day it's 120mm in between two heat sinks. Now onto my overall thoughts about the Freezer Extreme Rev 2. The CPU cooler itself looks the business. It is absolutely massive in its size. I do like the fact that it's got a 120mm fan in between the actual two heat sinks. The branding itself from Arctic around the outside of the actual cooler itself looks really good as well. It's going to be very easy to install into an Intel system with the push pins as well as the AMD setup as well. I do also like the fact that it does come pre-applied with the MX2 thermal paste, although some of you out there would probably prefer to use your own material for this. So overall this is quite a striking CPU cooler. Obviously if you were going to be going with something of this size, you are going to have to make sure you've got enough clearance around the actual CPU cooler and obviously around the actual case in particular itself. So we hope you liked the overview for the Freezer Extreme Rev 2, and we'll look forward to seeing you in our next video. We hoped you liked our video review. If you did, then please leave a like as well as any comments or questions you may have down below. Full details and specifications on this item can be found at our website, nismotech.com, along with all the links for purchasing if you wish. Also on our site you'll find our latest reviews and current giveaways, plus a lot more. We look forward to seeing you in our next review.